Okay, so in today's video, we're going to be looking at Google Calendar. Um, if it's something that if you're not interested in, if you've got to manage multiple calendars and you're not interested in subscribing to, um, one of those services like Calendly or Calendar Bridge or one of those that helps you keep all your various calendars in sync. You can do kind of like a simple version of syncing your calendars in Power Automate and do it fairly simply. Um, so, as far as like the functionality that the Google Calendar lets you do, you can, create an event, delete an event, get the details of an event, list the calendars, list the events on a calendar, and update an event. So, very simple, straightforward tasks. We're going to start by looking at, listing the events on a calendar here. Um, so you see, I've got this calendar here. There's nothing on it currently. It's just an empty calendar here. So I've got a flow. The first thing I'm going to do is just list the calendars that are on that account, that particular account. So go ahead and hit test and go ahead and run that. Okay, so we can look at the output here. So we can see that we've got a list of calendars. In this particular case, there's only one, but you can see the details of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get a list of events on that calendar. So let's go to here. We're going to look for Google Calendar and get list the events on a calendar. The calendar ID, we're just going to list the basic one here. And you can give it a date range. As an example of what I used this for in the past, I had uh, a work account where they wouldn't let me connect it to a service like Calendly or Calendar Bridge or anything like that. But I wanted to make sure that those events went onto my personal calendar so that I could keep track of them on my phone as well. Um, so what I would do is I set up a service that ran every day, and but they did let me connect it to Power Automate. Um, so I had a service that would go in once a day. It would look at the go in like 6 a.m. It would look at all the events on my calendar for the day. It would go over to my personal calendar. It would delete anything that was already there because it was simpler than trying to match up items on a calendar. So I'd just say, okay, any of the items that came from my work account, I'm going to delete off my personal account and then recreate them. And so every morning it would refresh the list of events on my personal calendar that came from my work calendar. So, crude, but it worked. It was effective, and it helped me keep track of anything that I might need to know about on my work account on my personal phone, without having my personal phone actually connected to my work account. Um, so, a little hacky workaround to get in there. So in this particular case, we're going to look at that. As far as advanced parameters, you can filter things, you can put in search terms. In this particular case, we're not going to do anything. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll test it. And obviously, we won't see any events here because there's nothing on that demo calendar that I'm looking at here. So click done, and this should come back with nothing. So if we look at the output from that, you can see there's no items. So items empty. So let's go ahead and add an item to the calendar here. Again, we'll go into Google Calendar. And what we're going to do is create an event. And we're going to put it on my engineer calendar. Start time, see here. Let's do a formula. Let's just do UTC now. And I'm going to add hours UTC now, comma 1. We're going to add an hour there. End time. Do the same thing here. Let's do add hours, UTC now, number 2. So we're going to add an item that starts in an hour and ends an hour after that. And just quick, simple way here. Title, let's do demo event. And description, something is going to happen. And we're not going to put a location in there. And, attendees, you can add attendees, you can add status. All day. No, it's not all day. So very simple, straightforward kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and save that. And I'll pop that up here in a second. Hit test. There we go. Done. Okay, so it ran through it. Look at the create outputs here. You can see it created an event. It's a calendar event. It gave it e tag. There's an ID. Status confirmed. HTML link to the event on the calendar. Summary, description, so on and so forth. And now if we go over here and open up my calendar, now you can see that the event is here on my calendar now. So the way that I would do this in the one that I was using to sync my work calendar is I would use the Outlook calendar item to get the list of items for my Outlook work calendar, and then I would throw them onto my Google Gmail calendar. Just by going through each of the items in my flow, I would obviously with this you can have the source of the events items coming from other information here. So start time, I would pull that off the other calendar item. The title, I'd pull off that other item and use that to create the items. And then what I would do as a way of recognizing items that came from my work calendar is I would add something like this to the front of it. And then, and that would put it onto my personal calendar marked as a work item. And then what I would do is I would come back when I was doing, the items to clear out the stuff that's going to be on there for the day. I'd say, okay, find me any items on today's calendar that have the title of work, or have work at the very beginning of the title, and then delete each of those items one by one. And, it was kind of, like I say, slow and crude, but it worked, and it was a quick and dirty way to sync my work and personal calendars a little bit. So there's a lot that you can do with that. If I wanted to come back and delete the event, go through here and let's say let's put in a delay. Delay of 15 seconds. And then I want to go back in here and delete an event. So calendar ID, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get from my create event, I'm going to get the ID, that one there. Let's save that. And for the moment, let's go ahead and delete that item off my calendar. Then I'm going to save that and test it. And actually, well, no, we can just leave that as is. And I'll go ahead and hit test, manually test on my flow. So you can see that the item was created, it has that work prefix on the title. And then here in about 15 seconds, it will delete that. So it's in the delay step right now. And what we should see here is it should pop off the calendar here in just a moment. And there it goes. Went through each of the steps. Obviously there was nothing there. Created the event, waited 15 seconds to delete the same event that we created. So, like I say, you can create these kind of processes to be able to sync calendars, or um, you can do other things with it. You could uh, get as fancy as complex as you want to. You could have something where if an item comes in on, say, like a task list or a to-do item, and maybe there's some information in there where it needs to happen by a certain date, or you need to do it on a certain day. You can do that to create reminders and block out time on your calendar um, automatically. So, say if I get a to-do item that comes in and says, okay, I need to do this on Friday at 1 p.m. or something like that, you can pull that information off the to-do item and automatically create a new item on your calendar. Say, okay, block off an hour Friday at 1 p.m. that I need to do this particular task. Include a link back to your to-do item. So there's a lot of different ways that you could integrate this into your workflow to create ways to automatically put items on your calendar, to sync calendars between, if you're managing multiple accounts, multiple calendars. Um, it's fairly simple to do as long as it's going one way. If you're trying to sync things both directions on multiple calendars, then it gets a lot more complicated, and you'll have to do things like, keeping track of the IDs of items. Say, okay, I've got this item, go through all my items for the next 2 weeks and say, get all the IDs off them, then figure out some way to track those IDs in the other calendars. Maybe use that prefix, although that kind of gets really ugly on your calendar pop-ups. Or maybe, attach something into the body somewhere where it does that, or, maybe some spreadsheet or database on it. So it can get really complicated as far as thinking in multiple directions. But if you're just doing it one direction, like I was doing, you put that little prefix on the title or something like that. Even just a couple letters. Just say, okay, WK, so it comes from my work calendar, or WC, or whatever it might be. That makes it really simple to do that one-way syncing using Power Automate. And you just have something that runs every day and refreshes, or even, if you're somebody like a lot of us developers where calendars can update frequently, then you could go in and do something that runs every hour or every couple of hours and says, okay, is there anything coming up for the next 6 hours that I need to worry about? Things like that to sync things between calendars. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with it and make it really functional and useful. And that's the Google Calendar connector in a nutshell. Thank you.